Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our last post-BOE press conference of the year. As you can see, I'm joined by Comptroller Henry and the City Council President. So I guess technically this qualifies as a BOE meeting and a post-BOE press conference at the same time. As always, I will begin by sharing where the city stands with violence in the city. Homicides are down 20%. Non-fatal shootings are down 8%. Carjackings remain down around 20%. And we've removed more than 2,700 guns off the streets of Baltimore, a 9% increase over last year. And as we approach the official end of the year, the lives and the livelihoods and families that are represented in those numbers are front and center for me, and I know for my colleagues as well. And we're also joined by Dr. Deborah Brooks, the Director of the Mayor's Office of Children, Family, and Success. As we continue and remain on this pace over the next few days until December 31st, these reductions that we are going to see are going to be some of the largest single-year reductions that our city has ever experienced since we began tracking these statistics in the 1970s. Those are dozens of lives saved and dozens of people and communities who did not experience a life-changing injury from a non-fatal shooting. And that work has only been possible both through the incredible work of the people in my administration, all of our partners in local, state, and federal law enforcement, but most importantly and especially all the community members who engage in these efforts each and every day across Baltimore. Whether it's folks like the Brothers at We Are Us, who are doing violence intervention work, or just someone in their neighborhood doing a citizens on patrol or looking out for their neighbors, these reductions are all of ours to tout, and we should be proud of them, but know that we have even more work to do. I want us to hold space and acknowledge how important this success is and reflect on what got us here. And while we're also holding space for the fact that one life lost is one too many, and now is only time that we double our efforts and take that work into 2024 to continue to see and further those reductions. To that end, this is a good time to announce that on the evening of January 3rd, we will be holding our annual Vigil of Remembrance here at City Hall. Every year at this event, myself, fellow city leaders, and community leaders gather to speak the names of every single person we lost to violence in the city the previous year. We'll hold it outside of City Hall Memorial Plaza beginning at 6:30 p.m. on January 3rd, and I hope you all join us to remember and mourn and honor our fellow Baltimoreans. Before jumping into questions, there's one item that I want to highlight that has not received enough attention this year, and that is our administration's commitment to eviction prevention. I'm joined here with my colleagues in government and the Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success, who have been spearheading these efforts. Baltimore City is currently the only jurisdiction in the state that is still providing active rental assistance to families as an extension of the eviction prevention efforts that were started during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. These efforts are continuing because we experience an overwhelming need in response. So far, MOCFS, which is administering the eviction prevention program, has directly assisted 13,000 Baltimore households, preventing so many of them from becoming housing insecure. In order to support this work, I've recently reallocated $3 million in general funds to keep the program going and help MOCFS move through the caseload that they currently have. Since the height of the pandemic, this program had several funding streams, some of which specific criteria were attached. So the MOCFS team has been diligently working case by case to match eligibility criteria for those funding sources and ensure that the families are getting the support that they need. This additional funding is going to be monumental for their efforts, and I know that is going to be utilized well to assist some of our most vulnerable residents. I want to extend my sincere thanks to Dr. Brooks and the entire team at MOCFS for doing the difficult work day in and day out. And I want to extend a word of appreciation to our partners on the council. I know many of them wanted to be here, Mr. President, but there's a hearing going on right now, who have made their voices of support for extending this program heard repeatedly over the past year. And I want to extend in particular appreciation to Council Members Ramos, Porter, and Burnett for their advocacy on this. This is something that we can all be extremely proud of. And lastly, I wanted to highlight last week, also on Friday, we announced a second grant from Bloomberg Philanthropies to expand Baltimore's innovation team. Baltimore is now the first city to receive this type of second expansion grant, and the Bloomberg team supports these I-teams all over the world. That's obviously an incredible statement of support for the work that the I-team is already doing and the faith that they have in how we will utilize this expansion. Their work is going to be focused on two main areas: supporting our efforts to tackle vacant housing and working on police recruitment efforts here in Baltimore. To lead the team, we're appointing a new Chief Innovation Officer for the city, Terrence Smith, and we're very excited to have Terrence come to Baltimore and join our team. And with that, we will open it up for questions.
Go ahead and start with,
Mr. Mayor, I had a question about the Ravens flex game. You posted on social media last night addressing an
Had to clear that up real quick.
enemy podcaster, so to speak, about they claim that somebody within your office said that you and the commissioner went to the league and the team to say that they don't want the game flexed till that night on New Year's Eve. So can you just address that as far as like what you...
Oh, I think the tweet speaks for itself. I think anybody that knows me knows I want all the smoke. And we shouldn't believe anything that comes from the Miami Dolphins. We can't even imagine or remember the last time the Dolphins have been relevant or even won the Super Bowl. I don't think I was alive the last time they won the Super Bowl. But what we will say is that we want the game to be on prime time because that's where it belongs. In fact, as I said yesterday, when they tell us that this game will be flexed to Sunday night, they might as well go ahead and flex the one with that team that we don't say their name from Pennsylvania and put that on Sunday night as well. We know that there is no place in the NFL like M&T Bank Stadium at a night game.
But do you think it's going to have any conflict with the fireworks celebration that night? A lot of people will be downtown to have simultaneous.
We've been through this before recently, right? We made it through multiple concerts and a playoff baseball game at the same time. We've made it through things in the past, like having the Maryland Cycling Classic in the baseball game, not this year, but the previous year. This is what happens in major cities. And we want to continue to have people come in and enjoy the city of Baltimore. And we're going to be working with our partners if the NFL decides to flex that game. And I also want to be clear, they could also flex it to Saturday night as well, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be on Sunday because they now are flexing the Monday games. And for those who may not know, the Monday game is actually being played on Saturday that week. So we're just going to await to see what happens. And as always, work with our partners in the Ravens and the state and the Stadium Authority to move forward.
Jim Fox, what about?
Last week, a judge ruled that 18-year-old Tristan Jackson, who's one of the suspects in the Brooklyn Homes mass shooting, should be transferred back under DJS supervision while he awaits his adult trial. Do you agree or disagree with the judge's decision?
The judge's decision is the judge's decision. He's having an adult trial, and that's what I await for him to be held accountable for his adult actions.
But he'll be put in a juvenile facility while he awaits that adult.
I understand that. The judge's decision is the judge's decision. I am not a member of the court. It is not my job to make that decision. My job was to make sure that young man was arrested by my police officers, and I know I have the utmost faith in our state's attorney and his team that they will get a case that will make him be held responsible as an adult for his actions.
When the Brooklyn Homes shooting happened, though, you called for accountability. You said you wouldn't rest until these suspects were found and faced accountability on all levels. If he's transferred back to DJS supervision, there's a very real possibility that they might not have a safe place to put him and he'll be released back into the public under an ankle monitor. So is allowing one of the suspects of one of the city's worst mass shootings...
Yeah, I know where you're going. I know where you're going with this. We got it. I'll say it again. Our job on accountability is to make the arrest. We know that I believe that the home monitoring thing needs to change. No one was talking that before me. I'm glad that you guys are talking about that now. You're welcome. But we know that what we have to do, my job, the residents of Baltimore know, my job is to make sure that our police arrest these individuals. We are going to be in Annapolis. It is my top public safety piece of legislation to change the outdated policies around home monitoring. But that's not just for youth. That's for adults as well. And I want to remind you that adults also have the same issues, and he could also be placed on home monitoring through the adult system. But what my job right now is to make sure that we continue to have our detectives support the state's attorney and his folks as we make the case for him to be held accountable as adult by a jury of his peers in court. Thank you. Thank you very much, ma'am. Next, Emily.
You mentioned the eviction prevention funds that
Yes.
you were allocating. There was a lot of discussion this year about the city needing to turn back some of its eviction prevention funds that it received from the federal government. So is this money that you're allocating now new, in addition to what was in the 2024 fiscal year budget? And are you confident that that office has stabilized since having to give back those funds?
Absolutely. We are very confident. As you can see, the money has been being spent and spent wisely, and we're going to continue to do that.
Adam?
Question about the Hilton. We had a story earlier this week about a lawsuit that the hotel corporation seems to have settled settled earlier this year for $18 million related to seeming like shoddy maintenance, basically, or shoddy contractor work in the Hilton. Wanted to know if you were aware of that lawsuit and the issues, the structural issues in the hotel, and what your thoughts are on potential sale possibilities.
Well, Adam, you know that there's a confidentiality thing, so I can't talk about the lawsuit. There's a confidentiality part in place on that. But as far as the potential sale, what I would say again is that we're open to that, but right now there hasn't been anything put forward.
There's nothing specific as far as steps taken.
Nope.
To try to sell.
No, sir.
WJZ or WER in the back? Thank you, everybody. You're gonna say more?
Emily.
So switching back to the traffic cameras, which were approved, there was, we haven't seen a breakdown of exactly what's being spent on the 83 cameras versus the larger contract. But, at least for the previous year, we weren't seeing a lot of revenue on top of what the cost was to operate the contracts. It was almost breaking even. So are you confident that this is going to be a good value going forward, given that citations are lower than what the city originally expected?
Yes, and we'll send you the information, and I think that the comptroller actually brought up a very good point too, that we're going to also be trying to expand, right? Like, we know that folks are still, still far too many accidents on 83, and we know that we need to have that ability to move the cameras to deter folks from not just speeding around the Pepsi sign, but doing it right after, right? I've seen it myself now, some of the accidents being a lot lower on 83. Somebody miraculously got their car stuck in the median right by Penn Station because they were traveling too fast, and we want to make people feel safe is the most important thing. This isn't just about money.
Are you open to the council president's suggestion of handling that contract in-house, doing that work in-house going forward?
Well, as I said to the council president, he and I we've been talking about that. We have to grow the capacity of DOT, and we'll continue to talk about that in the future.
Quick question on another topic. Yesterday, a student and teacher were injured at a stabbing or cutting at Carver. Parents say that they weren't properly notified and that the school isn't safe. Back in October, 3 teens were shot outside of that school. How is your administration working with the city to fix those concerns, specifically at Carver?
We're working with city schools. I think that we're going to continue, our officers will continue to support school police as necessary. I think it's critical to know that we've already made the arrest and the parents have been arrested in that case, right? I think we have to also highlight that, right, that most people wouldn't expect parents to be driving their child at the school to shoot someone, and quite frankly, the staff wouldn't think that either. And we're going to continue to support them to make sure that they have the resources that they need, but also that we're holding those people accountable. I know that notifications were sent out. I had people calling me about it who have connections to the school personally, but it doesn't matter where it happens. We're going to be supporting the school system and seeing what they need. But again, I think when you're talking about these actions that are taking place inside of schools, we cannot dance around this and not talk about about accountability, especially with parents about what is going on with their children. At this school, we've had a child be driven to the school by his parents to shoot somebody, right? At this, we have to have parents understanding and knowing what is going on with their young people. And if we find out that more parents are helping and aiding their young people in acts of violence, then we're going to hold them accountable the same way we held the other ones. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.